viewers. In this video lecture, we are going to see one topic from the 4th unit, Exception Handling and Event Handling for the subject Principles of Programming Languages. In a language without exception handling, when an exception occurs, control goes to the operating system, where a message is displayed and the program will be terminated. In a language with exception handling, programs are allowed to trap some exceptions, thereby providing the possibility of fixing the problem and continuing. Many languages allow programs to trap input-output errors. An exception is an unusual event, either erroneous or not, detected by either hardware or software that may require special processing. The special processing that may be required after detection of an exception is called exception handling. The exception handling code unit is called an exception handler. An exception is raised when its associated event occurs. A language that does not have exception handling capabilities can still define, detect, raise, and handle exceptions. Advantages of built-in exception handling. Error detection code is tedious to write and it clutters the program. Exception handling encourages programmers to consider many different possible errors. Exception propagation allows a high level of reuse of exception handling code. Exception handling in ADA. The frame of an exception handler in ADA is either a subprogram body, a package body, or a task or a block. Because exception handlers are usually local to the code in which the exception can be raised, they do not have parameters. So this is the coding for the exception handling. When exception choice, and there will be the set of statements, and exception choice from exception name others. Handlers are placed at the end of the block or unit in which they occur. If the block or unit in which an exception is raised that does not have a handler for that exception is propagated elsewhere to be handled. In procedures, propagate it to the caller. In blocks, propagate it to the scope in which it appears. Package body. In package body, it will propagate to the declaration part of the unit that declared the package. In task, there is no propagation of exception handler. If it has a handler, execute it. In either case, mark it completed. Predefined exceptions. Constraint error, index constraints, range constraints, etc. Program error, call to a subprogram whose body has not been elaborated. Storage error, system runs out of heap. Tasking error, this is a situation, an error associated with a task. Exception handling in C++. In C++, exception handling will have the blocks such as try block, catch block. Try block will have the coding that may cause the exception or they may raise the exception. Catch block will have the code to handle the exception, that is, handler code will be present inside the catch block. The meaning of try and catch block is if exception happens in the try block, it will be catched or it will be handled by the statements or options given in the catch block. The catch is the name of all handlers. It is an overloaded name, so the formal parameter of each must be unique. Throwing exception. Exceptions are all raised explicitly by the statement throw. A throw statement will throw the exception. A throw without an operand can only appear in a handler. When it appears, it simply re-raises the exception, which is then handled elsewhere. The type of the exception disambiguates the intended handler. Unhandled exceptions. An unhandled exception is propagated to the caller of the function in which it is raised. This propagation continues to the main function. If no handler is found, the default handler is called. Exception handling in Java. In Java, all the exceptions are objects of classes that are descendants of the throwable class. The Java library includes two subclasses of throwable, error and exception. Binding exceptions to handler. Binding an exception to handler is simpler in Java than the C++. An exception is bound to the first handler with a parameter is the same class as the thrown object or an ancestor of it. Checked and unchecked exception. The Java throws class is quite different from the throw class of C++. Exceptions of class error and runtime exception and all of their descendants are called unchecked exceptions. All other exceptions are called checked exceptions in Java. Finally, it is one of the block or class used for exception handling. So finally is used to specify code that is to be executed regardless of what happens in the try construct. Assertions. Statements in the program. These are the statements in the programs declaring a Boolean expression regarding the current state of the computation. Event handling. An event is a notification that something specific has occurred, such as a mouse click on a graphical button. The event handler is a segment of code that is executed in response to an event. The Java Swing consists of several GUI components. Text box is an object of class JTextField. Similarly, radio button, applets display, current content pane is one layer where applets put output. GUI components can be placed in a frame. Layout manager objects are used to control the placement of components. The Java event model. User interactions with the GUI components create events that can be caught by event handler called event listeners. An event generator tells the listener of an event by sending a message. An interface is used to make event handling methods conform to a standard protocol. A class that implements a listener must implement an interface for the listener. In C hash, it is similar to Java. .NET has two approaches for event handling: Windows Forms and Windows Presentation Foundation. That's all about the topic. Thank you.